When people sit down with you, James, they have such a clear idea of what they want in mind, which is how to prevent divorce. That's what every interviewer wants to know, I'm sure.
Which is the opposite of my day job. You know, my day job is people sitting down and saying, like, how do I facilitate the demise of this unhappy marriage? So it's really interesting that this aspect of my career, it's the total opposite. People are like, how do I stay married? And all day long, people are like, how do I no longer be married?
But I think it's so much so you wrote a book about how people can stay out of your office.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it was really based on the premise. When I was a kid, my mom used to say to me that it's really hard to define intelligence, but you can spot stupid a mile away. So for me, a definition of intelligence was always an absence of stupid. So I sort of realized after like 20 something years of doing the job of sitting across from people whose marriages were ending and having a very unfiltered view of it and really getting to see it in like this authentic way. Because people lie to their therapist, but they don't lie to their lawyer. There's like the two people you should never lie to is your doctor or your lawyer. Our whole job is to protect you, and privilege is attached, so we can't tell anybody anything you said. So I felt like, you know, I've kind of learned what screws up relationships in this really honest, authentic way. And maybe what a good relationship is one that doesn't have all of this awful stuff attached to it. And that's, you know, where it came from.
Well, I read that you are described as the sociopath you want on your side.
Yes.
When people walk in your office. That is quite a tagline.
Yeah, I've had some, you know, my line of work, being a trial lawyer in divorce, people say things to you that in any other profession, it would be a terrible insult. Like I've had people sit across from me on the first time they meet me and say, I've heard you're a ruthless son of a bitch. And that's why I'm here, you know? And you kind of go, in any other world, that would be an insult. But I guess I understand what you're saying, which is like, you've heard that I'm very tenacious. I think as a divorce lawyer, it's pretty common that you have to argue different sides of issues. So people start to think, oh, you mustn't have any moral compass, you know, because you're willing to represent the victim of domestic violence. And then in another case, you're representing the perpetrator of domestic violence. And in one case, you're representing the cheater. And in the other case, the person who's been cheated on. And they sort of say, well, how could you possibly do both of those things? But you know, you really do learn a lot about human emotional complexity doing the job. And I actually don't think it makes you a sociopath. I think it's the opposite. You have to be very sensitive and empathetic and try to put yourself in the head of the person that you're representing and understand them in the most sort of intimate and forgiving kind of way.
You kind of just mentioned that therapy and law in what you do are a little bit connected.
Yeah.
You wrote in your book that you're privy to more of a person's true life than any therapist.
Yeah.
What has that kind of access to other people taught you?
Gosh.
It's such a rare thing that you get to experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's taught me a lot. It's taught me everything. I mean, I dedicated my book to my clients, to the people, because of the things they trust me with. It's still 25 years of doing this job. I'm still absolutely humbled by the fact that people are trusting me with the most important things in their life, like their children, their time that they're going to get to see their children, the intimate details of their finances, their home. Like it's like shocking to me. But I've learned a ton from my clients. I mean, I've learned a lot about myself from my clients. I've learned what I'm capable of in terms of how understanding and patient I can be with them in that context, which has, I hope, made me better as a parent, as a partner, as a person. Mm-hmm. I've learned a lot. You know, I think more than anything, I've learned, if only people had like horns or halos, you know, if they were just like good people and bad people and you just had to figure out which one the person is and put them in the category. But like the line of good and evil runs right through the human heart, you know, and I've learned that if you judge any of us by our worst moment, that you're going to have a very awful, pessimistic view of us that's unfair. And if you judge any of us by our greatest, most noble moment, you're going to have a really unfair, optimistic view of how wonderful we are. So I'd like to think that all of us are like the average of all of those things. Mm-hmm. But it's probably taught me to be less judgmental. It's taught me to be more open to the things that people have been through and what it's done to them.
Do you ever get shocked anymore? Like, does anybody ever come into your office and they're seemingly have a halo over their head?
It is so hard to shock me now because I've just seen so many unexpected things over the course of my career. But every once in a while, it still happens. Recently, It happened to me recently, actually, and it probably was the first time in a few years that I've been shocked. But I was representing a woman who, the case is resolved now, but I was representing a woman who was married to a very successful guy, and he had what appears to me to have been some kind of nervous breakdown, and he ended up giving away $700,000 on TikTok, like just to random people, like over the course of 30 days. Like he had just gone online and just been giving away massive amounts of money for no reason, like other than just to sort of see the other people's joy. And I was shocked that that was even possible. Like I was shocked that you could on TikTok give away that much money to people you've never met. And it wasn't even like people in need. Like it wasn't like you went on GoFundMe and was like, let me give away to these worthy causes, or, you know, it wasn't like MD Motivator, like who like goes out there and finds like people that are like poor. And this was just, he was just like literally just giving away money. And that was one that shocked me. Like, cause in court, we didn't really know how much he'd given away. And I said, you know, Your Honor, I'm very concerned because it appears that he's giving away, you know, significant amounts of money on TikTok, and we don't really have an accounting yet of how much it is. And the judge said, well, sir, you know, is it true that you've been giving away money? And he said, yeah, you know, I've given away some money and over the last month. And we said, you know, about how much is it? And I thought, you know, 50 grand, 100 grand. And he was like, it's at least 300,000 or 400,000, but it could be more. And I really tried to not have the shock register on my face. Like you know, like anything that happens in a courtroom, I'm very, you know. So yeah, that was an example of me being shocked, and it doesn't happen as often, but I'm glad to know I'm still capable of it.
Yeah, me too, actually.
Yeah. I'm never shocked anymore by the ways that people cheat on each other, by people's sexual perversions and proclivities. And I don't have a good gauge anymore of what's shocking. Mm-hmm. Because I'll sometimes, you know, I'll have dinner with friends and they'll say like, oh, you know, what did you do today? And I'll start describing like a case that I'm working on, and they'll go, oh my God, you know, and he was sleeping with her sister, you know, and I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is weird. Yeah, that's like, for me, that's a Tuesday. But yeah, I guess for normal people, that would be a weird thing. So it's
sort of confirmation that there's a lot going on.
The variety of human experiences, yes. Really. And also the private lives of public people, like, because you'll sometimes I'll get to know someone on paper before I've met them. Like I'll have, you know, I'm representing the wife, so I haven't met the husband.
Yeah.
And all I know of him is what she's told me. And then the information, like I'll look at their bank statements or I'll look at their credit card statements, and I'll have this like, you know, like, wow, this person's like into some kinky stuff and they're really, you know, and then you meet them and you're like, you look like my accountant. Like how? And you're really into feet. That's so weird. Like I had no idea, but it teaches you that the private lives of people are sometimes extremely different than their presentation, you know, of who they are.
Yeah. You have 2 decades of experience navigating high conflict divorce.
Yep.
It seems like every divorce is high conflict. What does high conflict actually mean? Well,
so I got to push back on that and say the following. It feels like every divorce is high conflict because the divorces that you hear about are the high conflict ones.
Okay.
And the people that tend to talk about their divorce are people who've had really ugly ones because it scarred them.
Yeah.
And it becomes a part of their identity to some degree. And so you hear a lot about ugly divorces. Like doing what I do for a living, when people say, you know, oh, what do you do? And I say, I'm a divorce lawyer. They go, oh my God, you must have stories. And if I said, yeah, like there was this couple and they met and they were together, and then for a period of time they grew apart, and so they divided their assets in a fair way, and now they're raising their kids separately while living life, you'd be like, that's the most boring story ever. Whereas if I said like, yeah, and then he took a chainsaw and he cut the car in half, like that, you want to hear that story. That's a true story, by the way. Oh my God. And I think that because of that, there's this perception that that's what divorces look like. But the overwhelming majority of divorces are nothing like that, thankfully. They're really just identifying assets, valuing assets, and coming up with creative ways to divide those assets. And when you get into, as I thankfully have in recent years, the high net worth or ultra high net worth space. High net worth being like anything over 10 million, ultra being over 100 million of a marital estate. Then it's actually much more of like a tricky accounting issue, because a person's net worth at that level, depending on what happens in the stock market, for example, on a day-to-day basis could fluctuate wildly. So when you have to divide something, it becomes very it's a very technical thing to figure out how to divide certain assets and when to value them for the purposes of division. So you definitely, I find that doing what I do is always something different, which is kind of, what makes it exciting.
I interviewed a conflict negotiator one time, and he said the presenting problem is never the real problem.
Yeah.
He was like, it's true for therapy, for divorce, and in my experience, mediation.
Very much true in divorce. I think people, what they think they are worried about, what they think they want, and what they actually want are very often different. Thankfully, I have been doing it long enough that I have a little bit of a Rosetta Stone. So like when someone comes in, usually a father or husband comes in and says, I want 50-50 custody. I know what they mean. Like what they mean is, well, first of all, like no sane person would ever say like, I've only had 47% of my time with the kids. Like I need another 3%. Billy, grab your baseball glove. Like it's not normal. That's not how normal people would analyze their time with their child. What that person really means is I don't want to be a second-class parent. And sometimes it's fed by their own experience. Like maybe they came from a divorced household and they saw their dad every other weekend and once a week for dinner. And he was like a playmate, not a real parent. And they don't want that. Like they're saying, I want to do the heavy lifting of parenting. I want to do the hard part and I want to do the fun part. And I don't want to just be like a playmate to my kids. I want to be a parent. I want to help make decisions. I don't want to be cut out of important decisions. That is a very worthy sentiment. But when you say, I want 50-50, that's what you're expressing. Another example that happens a lot in divorce is people will come in and say, I want to keep the house. I want to keep the kids in the house. I want to keep the house and keep the kids in the house. And a lot of times what they're saying is, I'm really worried about my kids and I would like them to not notice that we're getting divorced. And it's hard to have to say it, but it's part of my job to say to them, your kids are going to notice that you're getting divorced. And actually, there's a school of thought that would say that the more you try to minimize their experience of it, the more you're going to probably make it more difficult and protracted for them, How
about when people come in and they're fighting over fine china?
Yeah.
Or things that...
A toaster oven. Right. I had a case where it was about a $10 million marital estate and the settlement negotiations broke down over a $48 toaster oven.
So what are they actually, how do you determine, clearly they're not fighting over a toaster oven. Like, how do you determine what is worth fighting for your client?
Yeah.
And what you have to level with them and say, listen.
It's a great question. My job is to be, this is why my job is to be very dispassionate and emotionally detached from what's going on, which is not to say that I'm not emotionally invested in being successful for my clients and helping them achieve their goals, but I'm not emotionally invested in the case in the sense that I can see it clearly. Like, thank God neither of my kids when they were little, they're adults now, but when they were little, neither of them was ever like very ill. But if one of them had been very ill and the doctor came in and went, oh my God, your kid is so sick, I don't want that doctor. Like I want the doctor to come in and go, okay, here's what this is. I've seen it before. Here's the best case scenario. Here's the worst case scenario. Here's how we're going to address it. This is plan A. This is plan B. This is plan C. Like, because I'm emotional in that moment. So I need you to not be emotional. I need you to understand my emotionalism, but I need you to be like, clear with me and confident with me and not afraid to tell me the truth. Tell me what I need to hear, not what I want to hear. And that's what I really try to be with clients. And that's what they really need from me. Sometimes they're so mad because I'm telling them stuff they don't want to hear. But in retrospect, they'll look back and say, because sometimes they're so mad at their spouse and they're so mad at the situation that I'll even say to them, like, you're going to spend $10,000 in legal fees fighting over a $5,000 motorcycle. Like, that's stupid. And they'll say, I don't care. It's the principle of it. And I'll say, right, but you're going to pay me $10,000 arguing over a $5,000. And they'll say, I don't care. I like you more than her. I'd rather pay you $10,000 because screw her. And what I learned early in my career, because when I was a young lawyer, I didn't have the confidence to push back. And I'd say, okay, like if you want me to do this, I'll do it, And then 6 months later, they'd call me and go, why did you let me do that? And I'll go, what do you mean, what did I let you do? I told you not to do it. And you said you didn't care. And they're like, right, but I wasn't thinking clearly. You were. So I learned that sometimes what they need from me, and again, keep in mind, some of my clients are celebrities, they're athletes, they're Wall Street, geniuses who understand money in a way that I never will and that most human beings never will. And they're not used to someone telling them, yeah, no, like that's ridiculous. And right now what you're being is impulsive and you're not thinking this through. And they're not used to being spoken to that way, but most of the time they appreciate it. Like at least, if not in the moment, when it's done, they appreciate it because they're like, all right, you kept your eye on the ball,
I have an unsavory question.
I love that.
Which is...
Most questions are entirely too savory, so that's
It's
good.
true, especially
it
here.
really is, yeah.
I polled a bunch of people before our interview.
Okay.
Some I know well, some I don't know well.
Okay.
Some who have been divorced, some who are married.
Okay.
And I said, what would you be most interested in knowing from a divorce attorney?
Oh boy.
And most of them had questions that I've heard you answer before, but there was one that stuck out to me, which is this person is married and is a year in, I would say, and having some issues in their marriage. And they said, should I ever want to get divorced in 5 years, in 10 years? What should I be thinking about now? Is there any information I should be collecting?
I think that's a question that's probably crossed everyone's mind at some point who's married, right? Is there, what if things fell apart, And with the divorce rate being 56%, it's probably not a dumb question, right?
It's up to 56.
56 is the current statistic, yeah. That's a little misleading because it includes people who've been married more than once, and the statistics show that you get worse at it as you go on. But it's even for first marriages, it's just over 50%. Okay. So... just think about that failure rate. And then add to it the fact that let's be generous. 10% stay together unhappy for the kids or because they don't want to give up half their stuff. I think you can make the argument it's probably 20, 30%. But then you basically got a technology fails 60, 70% of the time. That's crazy. That's fully crazy. If I said to you, there's a 50% chance when you walk out the front door, you're going to get hit in the head with a bowling ball. You'd be like, all right, I'll stay inside or I'll wear a helmet. Yes. When I go outside. You wouldn't just walk outside and people yet just get married it's nothing. So the answer I would give to that person is the following. Most people, when they get married, have absolutely no idea what they just did legally. None whatsoever. I can tell you with a high degree of certainty that most people, when the first time they learn legally what happened to their rights and obligations when they got married, is when they walk into a divorce lawyer's office. And that is the worst possible time to learn. That's like saying, I'm going to learn how to fight the next time I'm in a fight. That's actually the worst possible time to try to learn how to fight. Even a few minutes before would have been better, right? But ideally, as far in advance as possible. I genuinely believe if you wanted to damage my business model and that of my colleagues, you would create barriers to entry for marriage. You would...
Like what?
To get a driver's license, you have to take a written test. Then you have to pass it. Then you get a learner's permit where you're allowed to learn how to drive under very restrictive conditions. And then you take a road test and then they'll let you drive. And in most states, for a couple of months, you have a restricted radius of where you can drive and what times you can drive. Yeah. Married, you $50, you pay a guy who dresses like Elvis in Vegas and you're married. That's it. You don't get a pamphlet. You get nothing. Point. So I think if you made people take a class, I don't know, make people sit down with a divorce lawyer for a half an hour so we can just explain to you the basic, give them a pamphlet, give them a fighting chance. You don't get a pamphlet. I'm not kidding when I say you don't get a pamphlet.
I have to be honest, I've never thought about it. I'm not married. And I'm I've never really thought about the legal ramifications aside from prenups, which I know you discuss a lot.
Yeah. Most people never think about it. They're just caught up in the romance of it, the moment of it, the bond of it, the sort of pheromones of the whole thing, which again, I don't blame anybody. I've been in love. I get it, man. The last thing you're thinking about is, hey, we could potentially hurt each other. And what... But remember, love and marriage are two completely different things. And you could make an argument that they don't have a strong correlation with each other. Like, you could
it's
argue.
Hard, though.
What's hard?
Because
it's hard to be married. Yes, it's hard to.
No, but it's hard to be married if you don't have the love, and it's hard. The other one you can do. You can be in love and not be married.
That's a fact. Yeah, that's a fact. Which is a pretty good argument for not getting married, right? Because you're going to get all the benefits of love without any of the risk that comes with marriage. But yet, and again, because I don't want to sound like a marriage pessimist, 86% of people who get divorced are remarried within 5 years. That's the statistic that blows my mind. Because the fail rate of divorce, like the fail rate of marriages, I kind of go, yeah, all right, like that's not surprising. You don't know a lot. You know a lot of married people, but do you really know a lot of really happily married people? That's a question worth asking. Like I know a lot of married people, but I only know a handful of like really happily married people. People that if you say to them right now, like, would you choose again this person? Like if you could hang out with anybody, is this the person you'd hang out with? I know a couple people that the answer is like, oh yeah, this is my favorite person. Like this is, and some have been married 20 years and they're like, no, it's still my favorite person, And that to me, like you won the lottery. Like that's incredible. Like, you know how much better your life is because you found that? Like those people have a superpower because of that. Yes. So to me, I'm like, dude, shoot the shot, like try, like give it a shot. Cause if that's the potential prize, go for it. But remember, this is a legal status, what you're doing. It's the most legally significant thing you're going to do in your life other than die. It's the most legally significant thing. And by the way, every marriage ends. It ends in death or divorce. It's like one of the only things in the world that you go, I really hope this ends in death, But what I will say is most people don't realize that you are submitting yourself to a set of rules made by the government. And that's a really weird thing. Like, I don't know who the first person was who went, like, I love you. Like, I love being with you. I love how you make me feel. Let's get the government involved. Like, what? Like, where the hell did that come from? Like, I understand the feeling of like, I love you. I want this to be forever. Right. I want to feel like this when I'm with you forever. Like, I want to be here for you. I want you here for me. Like, who doesn't get that? That's amazing. Who wouldn't want that? But then to go, let's get the government involved. That's the craziest. Like I've been to the DMV. Yeah. Have you ever like walked into the DMV and went like, oh yeah, these people should be in charge of everything. Like they have got it together here. Like they really know how to just do things efficiently and in a way that makes sense and leaves everybody feeling good. Like, no, you walk in there and you just go like, oh my God, this is the height of government bureaucracy. Mm-hmm. Why would you say like these people or this type of person should be in charge of the most significant decisions in my relationship? Like that's insane. It's insane.
And also some would say that the US government incentivizes marriage and kind of punishes divorce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think they punish divorce?
Yeah, you could make that argument. I mean, I think they definitely incentivize marriage without question, which is why there was such a fight for marriage equality. Because, gay and lesbian couples for many years were like, why don't we have these estate protections? Why don't we have these tax benefits? Why don't we have this access to medical care and medical decision-making for this person who I have a serious relationship with? So, marriage equality was an important fight. It was always kind of funny to me because it was like, I live in a primarily gay neighborhood, I live in Chelsea. And I just remember thinking like, why would you guys want to sign on for this? Like this technology that most people hate and fail at, and we want it. Like if you actually disliked gay and lesbian people, you'd be like, yeah, we're going to make you get married. Like we're going to let you have access to this awful technology. But people fought hard to have it. And I think it's because there definitely are some incentives legally for it. What some people perceive as the punishments that come with getting divorced by the government are really well-intentioned, right? The road to hell is paved with good intentions, but they're designed to protect, children, some of these things. But again, they're weaponized. They're weaponized the wrong ways. But part of it is it's also a revenue raiser. Like speeding tickets, Police are expected to have a certain quota and they have to get it, and it's a certain amount of revenue that's anticipated to be generated from it. So it's similar in the sense that there is a whole sort of divorce incorporated out there. You know, there's a whole industry, and listen, my hands aren't clean. I mean, I've made a very good living facilitating the demise of unhappy marriages. And you provide a service. I don't make it rain. I sell the umbrella. But the truth is, like, there is an industry that's been built around the ending of marriages. And, you know, people, when they're getting married, it's the last thing they're thinking about is that industry.
You mentioned that you've seen cheating, you've seen money.
Financial impropriety, sure.
There's a lot of reasons and a lot of obvious reasons why people get divorced. But social media is at the center of a lot of divorces now.
Yeah.
It's even sort of weird to say out loud because it's like a fake world. And yet it's totally infiltrating people's real lives.
I think it's at the center of a lot of the things that are going sideways in our world. I think it's at the center of our political discord and the division that we all feel, whatever side you're on, like the feeling of how big that chasm between the sides has become and how much lack of goodwill is now there. Like it used to be, you know, I don't like this person's ideas. And now it's, I don't like this person.
Yeah.
Like it used to be like this person has bad ideas and I disagree with them. And now it's this person's a bad person. And it's not okay to just say, yeah, I don't agree with their ideas. I think that, you know, I think they love this country, but I think they have a different version of what would make this country great than I have. Like that's gone. And I think, you know, I think it's very much affected our view of ourself.
Right.
And of our partner and of the partnerships around us and of the potential other people we could have had relationships with and still potentially could have relationships with. Like it has fundamentally changed so many aspects of the way we perceive things, but starting with self, like how we perceive ourself and our relative worth and our relative success. And, you know, when you add to it that it's now become untethered from objective reality. You know, comparison was always the thief of joy, but comparing your relationship to other people's presentation of their relationship, you don't stand a chance. Like,
is that what you see in terms of when people are breaking up via social media? It's the comparison game, or is it?
Yeah, I mean, I think, well, first of all, I see how dishonest people's presentation of their relationships are, because I have clients who, you know, are in my office actively negotiating a separation agreement or in the middle of a private arbitration of a heavily contested divorce. And they're still posting on social media like, happy anniversary, the best hubs ever, #blessed. And I'm like, you were in my office earlier today because you're cheating on him. And there's like, all the time. I've had people go on, I've had celebrity clients who remain nameless who I've seen interviews with them when they're getting married and they're like, oh yeah, we don't have a prenup. Like, I don't believe in that. And meanwhile, I'm like, yes, you do. It's in my safe. Like you guys signed it at my conference room table. But, you know, because it's not published anywhere, it's a confidential document. It's not filed anywhere unless there's a divorce down the road. It's people get away with saying these falsehoods, you know, in a very public way. And it shifts our perception of our relative relationship to other people's relationship in a really, really significant way.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you think it's true that the more people post, the less happy they are?
I mean, it's been my observation. Like it really is. It is a very quick progression from endlessly posting about the relationship to all of a sudden the person is conspicuously absent and every trace of them has been eliminated. You know, and you kind of look at it and go like, oh, well, that escalated quickly. Like they're just erased from this person's timeline. And, you know, I see that a lot. What I see more than anything in terms of social media is how I think it's changed people's perception of the relative success of their own relationship. Because I think you're looking at someone else's greatest hits while you're living your gag reel. Like like you don't look at, like we're having a really interesting conversation right now and we're engaged with each other. So neither of us is looking at our phone.
Right.
So like anytime you're having like a heightened experience, you're having a wonderful meal, you're having an interesting conversation, you're having good sex, whatever it is you're doing, you're not on your phone. Like, when are you on your phone? You're on your phone when you're like sitting on the subway and you're bored, you're on the toilet, you're just bored. So it's not your best moment. Right. It's like a moment where you're a little vulnerable, you're not feeling great about yourself, maybe you're in transition between activities. And what are you looking at? You're looking at the moments that someone has decided are like, look at me. Look at how good I look at how cool what I'm doing is. Think about what that does to somebody, that when you're at your low, you're looking at people's curated high. And by the way, it's not even a real high. It's like a curated bullshit high. Like, they're not actually flying private. They just went up to that, set or whatever, or they're not even in first class. They just took a picture in first class and went back to economy. Like, or they have filters, that make them look the way that they look. Like, you don't see the parts of their vacation where the kid got sunburned and everyone was unhappy. You just see like the smiling picture where everyone's, blissful. So yeah, it creates in any of us this sense of like that kind of discord, that kind of unhappiness with what you have. Think of how it used to be. Like, maybe at church, you'd see what someone else was wearing, what watch they had or what car they drove. Or maybe you'd see your immediate neighbors, like what they had. But how much did you really have opportunity to compare yourself to people? Now, like, you have the opportunity all day to look at like just incredible versions of people. Again, 3/4 of which is absolute bullshit.
Does AI make it worse in your opinion?
I think so, because again, we're just going further. We're further untethered from objective reality. Okay. We're just becoming untethered from anything real.
Do you see a shift in the way people are viewing marriage? And just for context, I live in Los Angeles, so I'm aware that coastal areas, particularly Los Angeles, I think socially things happen there first sometimes before they spread other places. Yeah. And it's always been a place where iconoclasts tend to gather. Yeah. Yeah. And I see a lot of people and hear a lot of people talking about ethical non-monogamy. Yeah. And people who are wanting, I think the want for a life partner is still there. Like, someone wants someone they can count on, especially if they want children, they want to raise children with somebody, maybe even live under one roof. But I don't know that they want to sleep with that person all the time. And people are starting. And only that person. Right. And they're starting to question, what are the alternatives? Yeah. Do you hear that or see that? Or is that just a Los Angeles thing? So I'll say a couple things. One is I do think that some of the technological innovation that we've been talking about is a function of, and has also created a second order effect of people asking interesting questions. Like, why do we do it that way? Like Uber came about from someone being like, yeah, why are taxis the only cars allowed to drive people around? Like, I have a car, I can drive people around. Like, why can't I just like share my car with somebody else and they pay me? And that's a really great question. Like, yeah, how did you not think of that? I like that this generation seems to be asking a lot of like, yeah, why do we do it that way? It's actually why I like having young lawyers around my office, and I hire interns every summer, and I hire from the intern pool when people graduate law school, because I like having young people around me because they kind of go, yeah, why do you do it that way? And if the answer is, well, because that's how the person who taught me did it. It's like, okay, but why was that the right way to do it? Like, tradition in some ways is, the wisdom of people who were here before us. And tradition is also peer pressure exerted by dead people. So you might sometimes want to say like, oh yeah, why did you do it that way? Because grandma did it that way. Well, grandma didn't have a smartphone. Like, grandma didn't have every single song that's ever been written accessible in her hand at all times. Like, so the way she listened to music may not be instructive of how we should do it, So I think it's good to ask questions. What I will say is there are some things that I really wonder if there's a different way that it could be done. I'm the wrong guy to ask about ethical non-monogamy or polyamory because I'm a divorce lawyer. So all I see are where that ended in a car crash of a divorce, right? So I only get to meet people who that was the Hail Mary pass of maybe we can stay together, And so I see a lot of people where they tried that and it didn't work out and it ended in divorce. But that's like, talking to someone who's an oncologist and they're like, oh my God, everybody has cancer. Like, everyone I met today has cancer. It's like, right, you're an oncologist. Like, that's pretty normal. Like, if you were a cab driver, most of the people you met wouldn't have had cancer. Like, It's okay. Like, it's not like everyone has it.
So I am sure there are people who are, exploring other permutations of relationship, including ethically non-monogamous versions of it, or even unethically non-monogamous ways of doing it. The latter being very popular for a very long time, unethical non-monogamy. And maybe they're successful at it and they're just not ending up in my office. I haven't met those people.
Right.
But do I think it could potentially be possible? Yeah, of course. I mean, I think there's lots of ways to do relationships. I think, Freud and civilization and its discontents and a lot of the people that talk about like, how do you have a civilized society? A lot of it is we have to suppress our drives. Like we'd like to sleep with lots of people. We'd like to kill people or beat people up who don't do what we want them to or who make us angry. And as a civilization, we have to come to some rules of, no, we're not going to do that. This is how we're going to organize ourselves in a way that restores order or maintains order. I think monogamy is one of those things that we were like, no, one at a time, but I think we can all agree, like I'm not spoiling the plot, we're bad at it. We're bad at monogamy. Like we've been bad at it a really long time. Like I think infidelity was probably invented like 24 hours after monogamy. Like monogamy was invented and then the next day somebody was like, hey, wait a minute, and went in the other direction with it. Because I think a lot about the history of male and female interaction.
Right.
And what is the purpose of it? What's the point of it? Where are we good at it? Where are we bad at it? What need in us is it? Like, I think it's funny that it's strange to ask the question, if somebody says I'm getting married, that it would be rude of me to go, oh, really? Why? Like, why? Why are you getting married?
Right, that would be rude.
It would be rude.
That's a great point.
Why is that rude? Like, if you said to me, Jim, I'm starting a podcast. And I went, really? Why?
Yeah.
Like, that's fair. Like, well, I love talking to people and I think I have an interesting point of view. Like, and you'd have great answers. Like,
funny.
But if someone had asked you that question, you wouldn't have been like, how dare you? Like, what, if I said I'm quitting my job, you'd go, why? And I'm like, I don't like it anymore. I found something else I'd rather do. If someone said to you, I'm never getting married, you would say, why? And if I said, well, the divorce rate's above 50% and I think it's very hazardous and, I don't think I'd be good at it or whatever. But if somebody says, I'm getting married and you go, oh, really? Why? They would look at you like you're being very rude. And I don't understand why that's a rude question. Because there are to me, very logical answers to that question. Like, oh, it's really important to my parents. Or I'm of a religion where, you can't have sex with someone unless you marry them. And so I want God's stamp of approval because I'd really like to have sex with this person. Very fair. I'd like the tax benefits that come with marriage. Very fair. That's a very reasonable answer. But if you said like, I don't want to be lonely, getting married is not necessarily going to solve that problem.
Wow.
Like, you might, in fact, actually be signing up for a very uniquely awful kind of loneliness. Because if you've ever been sitting on a couch next to someone and felt really lonely, that's like a uniquely awful kind of lonely, So I just think it's interesting we don't even get to ask the question.
Do you think that's the question people should be asking before they approach marriage?
Yeah, I actually think the question you should ask is, what is the problem to which marriage is a solution? And then maybe ask the question, do I have that problem?
I don't know that that's why people get married, though. And so it's like, oh, then just no one should get married.
No, I don't know that that's true. I think...
Like, what would be a problem? I'm trying to think how I would answer that. Like,
well, I mean, sometimes it's a very practical one, which is that there's a religious underpinning.
Right.
Sometimes it's a familial one. Like, oh, it's really important to my parents that I get married. And by the way, like, I think sometimes that's okay. Like, it's okay to do things to placate your family. And, I don't think getting married, like in a happy relationship, I don't think getting married is going to, by action, make it worse. Like, I think a happy relationship, you get married, you're probably still happy. An unhappy relationship, you get married, you're probably still going to be unhappy. I think there's a lot of people that think that getting married is going to add some magic or value or connection or security or closeness or guarantees that it doesn't.
I think it's the guarantees.
Right.
I think, and maybe more for women, but tell me if you think it's for men too. People think if I have this piece of paper, because it is so difficult to get divorced and so costly to get divorced, that we will fight through whatever issue that we wouldn't fight through otherwise.
I think that's a very human and understandable way to feel. And I think you're right. But I think it's part of a very core and, to me, beautiful, but really flawed part of being human. Is that we want to have control over things we don't have control over. It's the same thing as when I'm on a plane and turbulence hits and I hold the seat. Like, that's going to hold the plane together somehow. Or if the plane suddenly falls out of the sky, the fact that I'm holding the thing's going to help. Like, it's not. Like, I have no control over what's happening in that situation. And it's very scary. Like, it's like when someone says, oh, I have this family member and they have terminal lung cancer. And part of you wants to go, oh, were they a smoker? Like, and it's not that you're trying to say they deserved to get cancer, but you're like, oh my God, like, I hope that doesn't happen to me or to someone I love. Like, please tell me they were doing something that I'm not doing and my mom and dad aren't doing, so then they're safe. And I think that that's so beautifully human, like to want to feel safe in a world that feels really unsafe, and to not want to feel alone in a world where we feel really alone sometimes. And I think that's what it is. I think it's like, I love you and I feel so connected to you and I want this to last forever. So like, what can I strap on to it that's going to make it feel like this forever? And I think that that's like a very beautiful and human sentiment, but it's also ridiculous because we're not going to feel this way forever. We're not going to be this forever. We're not even going to be here forever. Like, we're going to lose each other for sure. Like love is not permanently gifted. It's loaned in every permutation. Like, everything you love, you'll lose. That's the nature of love. And I don't say that to be a pessimist. To me, that is a wake-up call. That is like, oh my God, like, there is a finite number of sunsets I'm going to see.
Right. It's like the urgency of life.
Right. Like, and the beauty of it is the impermanence of it. Like, I wouldn't want to live forever. Like, I like the fact that, like, the clock is ticking on this, and that there's only so many permutations of things I'm going to get to do. And there's only and like, that's what makes it beautiful, is the impermanence to some degree. So I think it's very normal and very human to say, I think marriage is like a seatbelt. It makes people feel really safe, but there are a lot of accidents that are still going to happen, and the seatbelt won't save you necessarily from them. It might absorb some of the impact. It might make an otherwise very, very, I agree that like barriers to exit sometimes might make a person think twice, right? But does it really? Like, you know, I remember reading an interview with Russell Brand where he was talking about when he was a heroin addict, when he was younger. And he said, you know, he was rallying against at the time, like the criminalization of addiction. And he was saying, you know, in all the time that I was a junkie, not once did I ever think like, oh, I really want some heroin. Oh, wait, it's illegal. I shouldn't. Like, the illegality of it never crossed my mind. Like, and I don't think when people, you know, people aren't evil. They don't do evil things because they're evil. They mistake it for happiness. Like, nobody ever gets up in the morning and goes, today I am going to screw up my marriage and start an affair. Like, they just make increasingly bad small choices that lead them down a path. And then they're like, okay, I've made this choice now and I've screwed up things and I might as well just keep going. And so I think that marriage is something that gives us a false sense of security in our relationship sometimes. And in that sense, it may actually be bad for preserving the bond of our relationship.
I read that 70% of divorce is initiated by women.
That is true. 73%, actually.
I think that statistic would shock a lot of people.
It would, but it's also widely misinterpreted and also very unfairly weaponized.
Okay, say more.
So it's weaponized by some people I really like, actually. Like, you know, I think there is a crisis in masculinity and a crisis happening for men right now, and particularly boys, but certainly for men and their role in society. And because of that, there's all of these, you know, what's called red pill space, and there's, you know, like a men's movement, and it can be a healthy version of it, or it can be like a somewhat toxic version of it. I think I think that some men on the furthest extremes of the men's movement use that statistic unfairly to create the false impression that the majority of women who marry treat it like they went to the casino and they stocked up, and then once they were winning, they cashed their chips out. So they marry a guy, they have kids with him, they create a child support obligation, they watch him rise in success, and then they cash out and they get rid of the guy, but they get like the husband a la carte because the guy still has to pay for the kids, he still has to pay alimony, he still has to pay her bills, but she no longer has to be with him anymore and she can go off with a different guy and be happy. Right?
That is so not how I interpreted it. That's
so
interesting.
it's how it's been weaponized by people who would like to look to a person with a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yeah.
So to a person who's trying to be convinced that men suck, you can find evidence of men sucking. You think women suck, you can find evidence of women suck. Like I see this all the time.
Yeah.
And I even see it when I speak. Like people take one out of context thing I said about men and they use it to show how much men suck. Or they take something I said about women out of context and say, this is proof of how much women suck. And the truth is, I'm actually presenting a very balanced view where, yeah, we both suck sometimes and we're both heroic sometimes. The reality is that, of course, are there some women who weaponize the divorce system and process to maximize the return that they get financially at the end of a marriage? Of course. Yeah, we've seen it. It happens all the time. There are people who openly admit, like, oh, yeah, I got child support from 3 different guys and it's a very lucrative career. I've had kids with 3 different people and people are very open about that. Again, I think that's the minority. I don't think that's what most people, I think are just trying to survive. But part of the reason why women are in the position of commencing divorce actions, in my experience, is that men, I would venture to say that men ghost more than women do. Like men don't like the confrontation. Like men have a hard time with female anger. And I don't know that I blame them. As a heterosexual male, I will tell you, like female anger feels like it doesn't have a bottom. Like it just keeps coming. Men very often are conflict adverse and just bail. Like I've seen a lot of men go out for milk and never come back.
When you say bail, you mean like just leave?
Just leave the marriage. Like they just leave. Like they just abruptly say...
Move to another state.
No, they might just move out. They might just move out. They just go, yeah, like this is over, I'm out.
And then the woman has to actually legally initiate the divorce.
Right, because what she'll say is, she'll say to me, he left.
Yeah.
I didn't want the marriage to end. He apparently does. He got an apartment, but he's not paying the mortgage and he's not paying my car loan and he's not paying, the electric bill. And I don't have the funds to do that. I don't have access to these bank accounts or I don't have the earnings that he has. And he said, I can use it, or I earn 1/10 of what he does. And he always paid the mortgage. So when I say to him like, hey, you got to keep paying the mortgage. He's like, well, I don't live there anymore and I have to pay my apartment now. So I'll say, okay, well, we've got to file a divorce action. They're like, wait, I don't want to file a divorce action. He's the one who wants the divorce. Let him file a divorce action. I'm like, oh, right, but you want a judge to issue an order that he has to maintain the financial status quo and continue to pay the bills. I can't get a judge to issue an order until I commence an action. I can't commence an action with him as the plaintiff. I have to commence an action on your behalf. So that's where I have found in my experience, it's much more common for women to have to take that step.
I would have never thought of that.
It's not self-evident. So how did you interpret that statistic then?
I interpret it at this. I sound silly saying this because it's definitely not from a legal standpoint, okay. But I think a lot of times when women are in relationships that are not working, we grieve the relationship long before we actually exit it. Yeah. And I've found that men have immense guilt leaving their family, and they'd rather sort of stay in something bad than do something about it. And staying in something bad means either cheating or go like trying to not be around or whatever that is.
Yeah, like, I call that going without or going elsewhere.
Yeah.
And men are more prone to that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What I will tell you, that's insightful and it does match up with my experience. So I think you're onto something there. Again, there'd be no way to like empirically prove it, but I think it makes sense to me and it matches with my experience. No, it's good.
Not as dumb as I thought.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. No, I knew you'd have some interesting perspective on it. I mean, even by virtue of the fact that like we have different experiences as a function of our gender, in relationship, I think that is useful. It's useful for us to have dialogues about these things.
Yeah.
I have actually found in terms of my observation of cheating, is men sometimes are actually shocked at how upset when they get caught cheating, how upset their partner is or their wife is, because they're like, it had nothing to do with her. Mm-hmm. Like, I love her. Like, she's still beautiful. I still love sleeping with her. I still love her. And you're like, right, but then why were you sleeping with the other person? They're like, well, because they're like really attractive and they were there. Like, it's sort of like, why'd you eat the cake? Because the cake was there. You're like, right, but you know you weren't supposed to eat it. I know, but it was there. Like, it looked so good. I just ate it, you know? Whereas women who also cheat, breaking news, women very often cheat and it's like either a soft place to land, mm-hmm. like it's like they're, okay, this is going to be where I'm going to go next. Or it's like a way that they show themselves, oh yeah, this relationship's really over.
Yes.
Like, I very rarely in a 25-year career, I've met so many men that leave the wife for the mistress because they're convinced that they met their soulmate. And I've had a lot of guys who cheat and are just like, oh yeah, like it didn't mean anything to me. Women, I very rarely have it. It's like, oh yeah, it didn't mean anything to me. Like, it usually is like, yeah, this is what I had to do to figure out that this is over. And like, and the experience of having this affair is what showed me that's how severed I am from this person, that I was capable of cheating on them. So I think it reveals really different things to the person. Yeah. That's why that sort of, you know, famous and I think correct platitude is that when a woman cheats and gets caught, the first question the man asks is, did you sleep with him? And when a man cheats and gets caught, the first question a woman asks is, do you love her? Because I think we know something, which is, guys, sometimes it just didn't mean anything. Like, and sometimes it does. Sometimes it's like, oh, I think I met my person, you know? And with women, yeah, with men, it's like a very like possessory thing of like, wait, no, like that you're mine and somebody has now sullied that, you know? So, and men are, in my experience, much more unforgiving of infidelity. Like when a wife gets caught cheating, the chances of the guy ever taking her back is very limited.
I had a friend who's a comedian who I talked about this with.
Yeah.
And he said that if the man takes the woman back after cheating, he actually will never forgive her. And in his experience, he feels like, say it happens in January. Yeah. He was like, he'll be fine. And then one day in November of the next year, he'll cheat and totally rationalize it or say, or start to be mean or start to like take it out on her. Yeah.
I've found that to be true because I do have a lot of people that I represent where there was infidelity and then the couple came back from the infidelity. And then down the road, something else is the thing that ends it, whether it's more infidelity or whether it's some other issue. Yeah. So you get to kind of understand the whole history of the marriage. And I see a lot of people that had, you know, like infidelity, whether it was just a dalliance or whether it was a long-term affair. And then they come back from it and they have a period like a renaissance in their marriage. And then sometimes it still ultimately breaks up for different reasons or for the same kinds of reasons. Yeah. But yeah, I think it becomes like like the forgiving is in the forgetting to some degree. Like it's, if you say you forgive someone, but you're like carrying it around, like you got that in the chamber now. And it's like, okay, that's going to be my like get out of hell free card.
Yeah.
You know? And
I think that's the better way of saying what you've shared.
Yeah. Or even the feeling of like, I'm going to really punish you now by just like making you wallow in your own guilt for a bunch of years. Like, you know, like I'm going to forgive you and that's going to make you feel even worse for what you did. And I don't know, you know, I'm always still doing this 25 years. I'm still sometimes astounded by the ways people can hurt each other and punish each other and hurt themselves and, you know, punish themselves. It's really shocking to me still sometimes.
So you represent the wealthy and ultra wealthy. Mm-hmm. I've heard so many sort of platitudes about love and money. Yeah. One of the famous ones is if you marry for money, you pay for it the rest of your life. Yeah. In your experience, how does money change marriage?
I think it works on a couple of different levels. So one, I think financial stress is very hard on a marriage. So economic instability and struggling with money is really hard on a marriage because it's hard on a person. And, you know, not to gender it too much, but it's really hard on men when a man feels like he can't provide for his family. There's a tremendous anger that comes out of that person and a tremendous resentment. And sometimes that doesn't find a target. It just sprays in every direction, and it manifests in substance use issues and other kinds of things that really are toxic to a coupling and to a family. So lack of money and financial instability can have a really profoundly negative effect on people. Similarly, getting everything you want is sometimes the worst thing that can ever happen to a person, because there's really only two amounts of money: enough and not enough. Period.
That's interesting.
And representing billionaires, I can tell you, if $100 million isn't enough money, no amount of money is going to be enough money. You know, money offers you real solutions to imaginary problems, and imaginary solutions to real problems. Like if you're lonely, money's not going to solve the problem of your loneliness. Like that's a real problem, and money will offer you an imaginary solution to that problem. You can go to the club and everybody will hang out with you for the night because you're paying for bottle service. That's not an actual solution to the problem of loneliness. Like it's an imaginary solution to the problem of loneliness. Yeah. And the real problems that money solves are not real. Like I can't afford this particular brand of handbag. Like you'll get that handbag and it's just eventually another handbag. Like it's never enough handbags. Like there's never I've divided a lot of Birkins. Like there's not.
Have you really?
Oh my God, so many Birkins. So many Birkins. I had I actually keep a tally of who's the most Birkins I've ever had a client. And I have a client whose wife accumulated 37 Birkins. That's the winner right now. She had them in like every color, every material. She had like the alligator ones. She had the snake ones. She had color lines that they only do in certain parts of Europe. Yeah. And they were miserable people. I mean, they were miserable. He had a wine collection that was worth like $10 million. And, wow. You know, it was amazing. Like, but these are distractions people create to sort of, you know, distract their attention from the inevitability of their own demise and the unhappiness and disconnection they have. Like, you could be miserable. And I've learned very quickly doing what I do that you can be miserable in the penthouse and you could be really, really happy in a crappy studio apartment. You know, it's really more about the person you're there with and how connected you are to yourself and to them.
What do you think you understand about marriage that most other people don't?
I guess that it's fragile. I think I understand how fragile it is in a way that other people don't want to acknowledge. Like that it really requires that you pay attention in a way that people have a hard time doing. A, because it's uncomfortable, and B, because there's so many things to distract you from it. And I think one of the things people find false comfort in when they get married is like, okay, I'm married. That's done now.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that anymore. And that's really, they're doing themselves a tremendous disservice, because part of what made you fall in love is that you were interested and you were interesting. You know, like you were interested in this person and they were interested in you, and you.
On the back of the card game.
Yeah. And you felt interesting. Yeah. Like you felt like, because you don't just fall in love with the person, you fall in love with who you are when you're with them, and the parts of you that they bring out and shine a light on. Mm-hmm. And the parts of you that maybe you don't love that they make you see differently. You know, like I know sometimes like the most lovely thing about love is when you're so self-conscious about something about yourself and the person's like, that? Like, I love that about you. Like, and you're like, really? Like, I hate that about me. And they're like, oh my God, I love that about you. Like, and there's something so lovely about feeling seen and loved like that. But I think one of the things that really makes marriage so fragile is that people just stop seeing each other. Like, and that's so strange to me, that you stop seeing this thing because it's right in front of you. Mm-hmm. And like if somebody said like, yeah, I don't see that thing anymore. Why? Because it's right there. It's there all the time. It's like, well, that's why you should see it all the time, because it's right there, you know? But that's why people just stop seeing it. Like they don't see this person. And it's so sad because it's so easy to make someone feel seen. Yeah. Like it's so like I often tell my male friends, because I've learned a lot about this by spending a lot of time with women and hearing about what made them feel disconnected from their marriage. And I always try to tell my like happily married male friends, like, just remember to make her feel seen. Like, remember to just, it takes nothing. It takes this much. Like, just leave a note in the morning. I married the prettiest girl. That's it. Like, what does that take? 10 seconds? Like 10 seconds to write that note. Would you ever not want to get that note? Would that note ever not warm you? Would that note ever not make you feel loved? Like that's so lovely. Like the text message that you send that says, oh, you know, I'm in Starbucks and this song came on, made me think of you.
Yeah.
Like that's like, at the risk of being prone to superlatives, like that is to a woman what nudes are to a man. Like it really is. Like it's this like, hey, I'm thinking of you and you're with me even when you're not with me. Like I see you even when you're not in front of me, I see you, but especially when you're in front of me, I see you. Like there's something so human and understandable about wanting to feel that. And there's also something so human and understandable about forgetting how important that is. So if I'm an evangelist for anything, it's kind of to remind people that like, you know, like love is not permanently gifted, it's loaned. I just think you have to be mindful and present. And that's really hard to remember to be. So that's the long answer to the question that I think marriage is really fragile, but I don't think it has to be so hard. Like I think that the fundamental fragile nature of it is tied to the simplicity of that connection.
Do you think you can have second marriage energy in your first marriage?
You know, I think, yeah. I think, because I think second marriage energy is you know what you don't want because you've watched it go wrong. And maybe you're a little quicker to tell the person something they might not want to hear and disappoint them a little so you don't disappoint them a lot in the long term. Like I think something divorced people learn, it's better to like live an uncomfortable truth than a comfortable lie. And so they learn that like, you know, I held my tongue and when it wasn't going right, I didn't say anything. And then we got really lost. Whereas if I had said like, hey, I think we might be a little lost, we might have stopped the car and been like, okay, where did we lose the plot? And let's go back to there and figure it out. And I think once you've learned that lesson, and again, it doesn't have to be marriage, it can be through a breakup. Like I'd like to think that with every relationship, I get better at relationship. Like I think we break in relationship and we heal in relationship. And I'd like to think that each one is a lesson and a chapter in a long book until eventually you have the last one, and hopefully that's the one that you were best at.
I have more divorce questions for you, but I've watched so many of your interviews and everyone asks about divorce because it's fascinating, but I don't ever really see people talk about you. You're covered in tattoos.
I am really covered in tattoos. Like my whole back, like I'm tattooed. My whole thing's tattooed, basically. Yeah.
Really?
I'm like one big tattoo.
Okay, so covered in tattoos. You listened to heavy metal growing up.
Yes, I was a metalhead growing up. Yeah.
And I
also listened to show tunes growing up. So I also know the entire of Oklahoma. So I'm the only person that knows all the lyrics to the album by Slayer, Rain in Blood, and also knows all the lyrics to Surrey with the Fringe on Top from Oklahoma.
It's unique.
It is unique, yeah.
But there's something I notice in your conversations, which is there will be a moment where your eyes well up a little bit.
Yeah.
And you hold back the tears.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
But it's when you talk about love or talk about being seen.
Yeah, yeah.
What is that for you? Did you, like, I don't want to start to go.
No, it's a really interesting question. It's a question about me and about how it happens a lot. It happens to me a lot when I talk about love. I am much more prone to crying about something beautiful than I am about something sad. Like I am very capable of being deeply sad about something and not crying about it. I'm not afraid to cry. I'm very comfortable crying. But I often find myself moved to tears, like frequently. Like I'm moved to tears when I read something that's beautiful, when I listen to some piece of music that's moving. Like my natural reaction to that is that feeling of like a heightened, overwhelmed feeling is like, my eyes well up. And I think when I talk about love and connection and being seen, it's still so moving to me that just how beautiful that is. Like, I think there's just nothing. It's so funny to me because, years ago when my first book came out and I was first doing press, people really expected me, because I'm this like successful divorce trial lawyer who's described as like the sociopath you want on your side and who's very capable of being very intense in a courtroom and being weaponized and cross-examining the hell out of people and stuff like that. That people really assumed that I was just not, A, not emotional, and B, certainly not like moved by romance or love. And a lot of times people would say like, well, do you still believe in love? And I was like, what? Like, that struck me as the craziest question. That's like saying, do you still believe in gravity? Like, I don't have to believe in gravity. Gravity exists. Like, I can say I don't believe in gravity. I'm not going to fall up. like, of course I believe in love. Like, I feel love. I see love everywhere around me. And I see it's the only thing that really matters. Like, it's the thing we're all looking for. It's the thing that makes any of this. Because there's so much pain in the world, and there's so much, like, life is incredibly short and brutish in some ways, and we're all gonna die, and everyone we love is gonna die. Like, I mean, there's so much about it that's like, oh, wow, we're playing a game you can't win. But the winning of it seems to me to be like, to feel these beautiful feelings, And so when I feel those feelings, whether it's a beautiful piece of music or experiencing some connection with someone or like accessing some emotion, like, that's to me, like, that's everything. Like, that's the whole thing. And so I feel it really, really deeply. I think to do what I do for a living, the secret, I guess it won't be a secret when I say it out loud, but the secret is like, I'm the opposite of a sociopath. Like, I'm really, really sensitive. I'm really, really sensitive. And the tattoos and the things like that, like, when I was a young man, I hated the part of me that was that sensitive. Like, I wanted to beat it out of me. Like, I was like, okay, I'll hurt myself as much as I can. Like, I'll just have needles all over. Like, I'm not gonna, like, I'll find a way to not feel stuff so deeply. I was afraid of spiders, so I got a tarantula and I put it in a glass cage next to my bed. So I would have to wake up every day and look at a giant spider until I wasn't afraid of spiders anymore. And that worked. But like, I could never beat the sensitivity out of me. And I figured out like, oh, okay, like, it doesn't have to be my enemy. It can be a superpower. And it became a superpower to be that sensitive, to be able to like figure out like what's going to move the judge, what's going to make my client feel safe, what's going to make the other side feel vulnerable and scared. And, it took me a long time to figure that out as a superpower, but I'm really grateful that I did. And I think once I let myself realize that it was a superpower, I let myself feel it more, and I think that's where some of that emotion comes from. I've also been in therapy a really long time, so that might be part of it.
Do either of your kids have it?
Yeah, I think they both have it in different degrees. I think my older son is a lawyer, but he's very analytical and very academic. He's really, really smart. And he got that from his mom. And he's really, really smart. And he's really, he can be a little cerebral. And it's really easy for me to get along with him because he's really easy to navigate. My younger son is like me. He's like really sensitive. And because of it, we have a harder time getting along because we can read each other and the situation like a book, and our powers neutralize each other to some degree. So we've gone round and round. Like we've had chapters where we were not close, but what's really lovely is he's 25 now, and in the last year or two, we've become really close, and that feels really lovely because I had to sort of see that the parts of him that were challenging for me were the parts of myself that are challenging for me.
Oh, it's so confronting.
Oh, it's rough. It's rough. I mean, one of the unique things that divorced people with children get to experience, and it's a really great life lesson. You have to learn to navigate the personality traits of your ex-spouse that you didn't like, but in your kids
No one ever talks about that.
Who you love more than anything. And so then you're like, oh shit, I can't just divorce them. Like I can't leave. Like they're my kid. I'm stuck, you know? And I know my ex-wife, like there must be times where she just looks at them and goes, oh my God, you have so much of your father in you. And there are times where they'll react to something and I'll go like, oh my God, that is so your mom right now, you know? But it's a really great lesson because you're like, no, I can't quit on this. Like I have to learn how to navigate this. Like, and I think that there's something really valuable there. It's helped me grow as a person, I think. And it even helped me have a good relationship with my ex-wife because we never had a terrible one, but it really helped us realize that like, oh, you know, we have to learn how to navigate each other. You know, like there's some parts of our relationship that are over, but there's some parts of it that continue. Like we're still a family. We're always going to be family. We're going to be grandparents together someday. Like we're stuck with each other.
What's the dumbest hill anybody's died on in a divorce proceeding?
So many. So many hills.
Aside from the toaster.
There's a chapter in my book called The Case of the Incredible Shrinking Penis. And it tells the story of the dumbest hill I've ever seen somebody die on. And that is that a guy married my client on false pretenses. He wanted a green card. And they got married and he literally, right after the marriage ceremony, left and never came back. And my client came to me very upset and said, I want this marriage annulled. And an annulment is different than a divorce. A divorce is we were married and now the marriage fell apart. An annulment is this was a fraudulent marriage and you can get it annulled and then you've never been married. Like it was not a legal marriage. It's a void marriage, okay? And this was really important to my client because she was religious and because she like really wanted this to be like, you know, yeah, I'm marrying this person forever. And it was a fraud. This guy wanted nothing to do with her. And, we had him served and we said, we want an annulment. And he said, I won't give you an annulment. I'll give you a divorce because that way he could keep the citizenship. And we said, no, we want an annulment. And the reason he didn't want to give her an annulment is they could affect his citizenship status. So we ended up having an annulment trial and he claimed that they had consummated the marriage, meaning that they had had sexual intercourse. Now my client was like a 37-year-old woman. So, you know, like how do you prove somebody didn't have sex with somebody? Mm-hmm. So I was talking to her about, look, maybe you want to just take the divorce because like it's going to be really hard to prove you didn't have sex. It's his word against yours. And I said, she was like, well, I'm a virgin. And I was like, well, I mean, congratulations. Like that's an accomplishment at 37. But, you know, the chances of your hymen still being intact are like almost nothing, like because, you know, as time passes, it gets weaker and it's, you know, any gynecologist can tell you that like just because a woman's got a broken hymen doesn't mean that they're not a virgin. And I said, but look, if it was intact, that would be conclusive proof that you never had sex with this person. So I said, why don't you go to your gynecologist and find out? So she went to see her gynecologist. A couple of days later, I walk into the office, my secretary says, Jane Doe is in conference room B and she's very upset. So I was like, all right, I know what this is. Like, I knew it was going to be. So I go in and I say, listen, you know, it was a long shot. There was no way it was going to be intact. And she was crying. She was like, no, it's intact. She's like, I just came from the doctor. Like my hymen is intact. Like, and I was like, oh, game on. Like, it's game on now. Like, I was like, are you serious? She's like, yeah. I'm like, and she would testify to that? She's like, yeah. She even like took pictures. Like, I was like, oh, it's on now. So we took the case to trial and we didn't let the guy know. And I had him get on the witness stand and on cross-examination, I said, you know, you testified earlier that you had sexual intercourse with my client. He said, yes, I did. I said, and when you say you had sexual intercourse, you mean you put your penis into her vagina? And the judge is like, Mr. Sexton, I think we all understand that that's what sexual intercourse is. I was like, Your Honor, if I could just have a little leeway, I'd appreciate it. He says, I'll give you a little, Mr. Sexton, but this is going to stay PG. This isn't going to get X-rated. And I walked through and I said, and did you have any problems when you had sex? He said, no, we had no problems. I said, now, sir, I apologize for asking you this. How big is your penis? And objection. I said, Your Honor, I ask for a little leeway here. This will be relevant, I assure you. She said, all right. And he said, it's average size. I said, respectfully, there could be some debate about what it means to be average size. I said, so how how many inches approximately is it? He said, well, 5 or 6 inches. I said, 5 or 6 inches when erect? He said, yes, 5 or 6 inches. I said, very good, thank you. I said, I have nothing further. Then I called her gynecologist to the stand. And I basically said, would it be physically possible for a 5 or 6 inch penis to have penetrated my client's vagina? I said, absolutely not. The only way a person could have had sexual intercourse with her is if they had a microphallus, meaning a penis less than 1 inch long. And, anything more than that, and they would not have been able to do it. So the guy went back on the stand and said, I exaggerated the size of my penis. It's actually much smaller than that. And I said, is it your testimony that your penis is smaller than 1 inch when erect? And the judge said, all right, that's it. I want to see counsel in chambers, and brought us both in chambers and said to opposing counsel, your guy's going to grant her the annulment, or I'm going to hold him in contempt of court. I'm going to charge him with perjury. He's going to end up in jail. And so he ended up giving her the annulment. But
what a story, James.
But it's a long story.
Mr. Sexton, what a story.
It is but that was the worst hill to die on ever. Because he just was but I've never seen a person put in the position they were trying to vehemently argue that they had exaggerated the size of their penis before. It was a really unprecedented. And never since. It's never happened since. I've never had that come up again. No pun intended.
So there is no segue from that story, so I'm going to go
No, it's not possible.
else.
Yeah, it's not possible. Yeah.
But I'm at a women's dinner probably a year ago, a women's health dinner. And it's assigned seating.
That's a really interesting layered answer, because it has a lot to do with, it has to do with economics. It has to do with the style and feel that a person has, what kind of experience you want to have. Some people want to stay at a hotel that's very emblematic of the place where they're visiting. So if they're in Peru, they want to stay someplace that's got that very inspired by the local. And some people want to just stay someplace that reminds them of exactly like it was at home, like the accidental tourist concept. I want to approximate the sensation of being at home, but be in another country. So I think it's a brilliantly layered answer. And the fact that she came up with it in 60 seconds is impressive to me.
I thought so too.
Yeah.
I think about it all the time.
Yeah. That's kind of Laura's superpower, is that I think she, as a lawyer, can say a lot with less, and she can pack a lot into that. And as an advocate.
What would your advice be?
Oh boy.
No pressure.
Ask the question again, because I want to answer the specific question. As
somebody who has seen tons and tons and tons of divorce, what is your best advice for marriage? Or what is your best advice for entering a marriage? For entering a marriage. Okay. I wanted to be specific in the answer, and specific. I'm never going to have an answer as good as Laura's. My advice would be pay attention. Just pay attention. I think that seems like a silly and simple answer. It's not as artful or layered, but I think pay attention. I think attention. I think it's really layered.
I think paying attention to yourself, paying attention to the other person. Don't stop seeing them. Don't stop seeing the small things, because the small things are really everything. I think that no single raindrop's responsible for the flood. And I think that we think a lot about the big disconnections, but the small disconnections lead to the big disconnections. And I think that we fall in love so fast and so fully, and then we fall out of love very slowly. And then it's it's like the way we go bankrupt, very slowly and then all at once. And I think if you're paying attention all the way through, the chances of that happening go way down.
I think it's really interesting that was your advice, because when there's someone, and this is one of the shows I do other shows, and anytime I feel comfortable asking someone offline who's been divorced, I always say, did you know when you were walking down the aisle? Yeah. I've probably asked 35 people I've interviewed, all different industries. Yeah. Only one said no. Really? Everybody said yes. Yeah. That they felt something. And there was the attention. And they walked down the aisle for a number of different other reasons. Yeah. But I see how that happens.
Yeah, I will share that when we got divorced, my now ex-wife said to me, when I was standing in the sort of vestibule we got married in a restaurant, She was like, and I was about to like walk down the aisle. She's like, a part of me thought like, don't do this, like run. Whoa. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, I can tell, you know, she didn't tell me it in a hurtful way. She was telling me it in a way like that, oh, maybe something in her knew. And I would never have guessed that. But I think you have to like, I think it's hard, you know, it's hard to listen to yourself in an honest way, because sometimes the things you have to tell you, like anytime somebody, you know, I've been in therapy a long time, and anytime somebody says like how much they like being in therapy, I'm like, well, then you might need to get a different therapist. Like therapy is supposed to be uncomfortable. Like it's supposed to be a little uncomfortable. It's supposed to be like that which you need to see the most is in the place you least want to look, you know, and you have to dig around, you know, and you have to be uncomfortable. And I think that, you know, that discomfort is an important part of the process. And I think that discomfort is the discomfort you feel when you're paying attention. But I am a fan of an uncomfortable truth versus a comfortable lie. And I think the long-term ramifications of ignoring the voices inside you, of not paying attention, that cost is much higher than the temporary discomfort.
True or false? Don't marry anyone you wouldn't want to be divorced from. True.
I think, I think gauging how someone is with their exes is important. I think it tells you something about who they are. I remember when I first got divorced, I went on a date. It was one of the first dates I went out with after my divorce. So it was a long time ago. And it was going really good. It was going really well. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Like, I can still feel a connection with this person. And then she said, we were already, like, we were having fun. We were at dinner. And I was already thinking about maybe I would see her again. And we were talking about some like art gallery, some exhibit or something. And I said, oh, we should, you know, maybe we'll go see it together. We could do it like, you know, sometime soon. And she was like, oh, I'd love that. You know, we could do it next weekend. Like the asshole has the kids, so I could do it. And I was like, oh boy, okay. Like, and the fact that she was referring to her co-parent and ex-husband as the asshole, I was like, we are not on a good level here. Like, this is not something, and it was so different than my experience because I would never refer to my ex-wife that way. And so I think that you divorce who you married. Like, people don't want to believe that. People are like, oh, when the ring comes on, the mask comes off. Like, no, like if you're married to a person who's like petty and spiteful, you're going to divorce someone who's petty and spiteful, and they're going to be petty and spiteful in divorce. Like if you marry someone who's like reasonable and prone to acknowledging the possibility of their own error and like kind of kind-hearted and empathetic, that's who they'll be probably in the divorce. Like, and so it's okay. Like, you know, I think you should be prepared to divorce the person that you're marrying.
For someone who's not married yet, what's the number one red flag that should make them run away before they ever get there?
Gosh. I mean, I don't think you should ever marry someone who you think you're going to change or in anticipation of them changing. I honestly have to say the number one red flag in my experience would be people that have substance use issues.
Oh, wow.
I think a lot of marriages, particularly at this moment, I would say in the last 5 to 10 years, substance use issues is a big, big thing. Whether it's alcohol abuse, cannabis abuse, opiates, you know, stimulants, Adderall, like there's substance use is usually emblematic of other significant mental health issues or interpersonal issues that a person might have. And if a person has mild substance use issues, very often that can metastasize into something much more extreme. It's not going to get better, it'll get worse. So I would say that's a huge red flag. And that's a very tangible red flag. My other answer would be a person who is incapable of apologizing. I think you can tell a lot about a person by the way they apologize. Like, I think you should listen when someone apologizes, because if they're prone to what I like to call a bullshit apology, which is, you know, I'm sorry you were so upset by what happened. That's a bullshit apology. I'm sorry. That's a better apology, but it's not a very good one. The best apology is, I know what I did that upset you, and then saying what it was. Like, I wasn't listening and I invalidated your perspective. I shouldn't have done that, and I'm really sorry that I did. And if I had the chance to do it again, I would do it differently. That's a A+ apology. You identified what you're apologizing for, so this person knows I'm not just offering a blanket apology and I don't understand what I actually did. I'm acknowledging what it is that I did to make sure that what I'm apologizing for is the thing that hurt you. Then I'm apologizing unequivocally for the behavior, not for how it made you feel, not for the effects of it, for the behavior itself. And I'm acknowledging it was wrong of me to do and that I won't repeat that behavior now that I've learned the lesson that was necessary. That's a good apology. If you are dating someone and they can't apologize, and even when they apologize, it has to be, I'm sorry that happened, but I have to say, like, you were definitely pushing it. Okay, like, run, because they're not going to get better at that.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Okay, my last question is, what is the best gift to give somebody going through a divorce?
Going through a divorce? There's this new phenomenon I just heard about that I kind of love.
Tell me.
Divorce registries.
I love this.
I do too.
I agree.
Somebody pointed it out to me thinking I was going to piss all over it. Because I tend to laugh at some of these conventions that people do. There's all these new ones too, like a baby moon or a push present or there's all these weird, people love to just add holidays and add opportunities to buy gifts. Somebody brought this to my attention that a woman was getting divorced and she put up on TikTok or whatever social media is listen, a lot of my friends are asking me how they can be of support to me. And of course, talking to me and being there for me is a really lovely thing. But, if you really want to do something, I gave up half my stuff. I let him keep all the pots and pans. I got to get pots and pans. And she made a registry. She went on Amazon and made a registry. And
so funny.
When I heard somebody brought it to my attention, I was like, that's not a thing. And they were like, yeah, it is. And I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, that's a thing. And I'll tell you, I actually bought an item on her registry. I bought her a $40. It wasn't expensive things. She registered for, but she registered for stuff that it was useful. Yeah. She gave them all the sheets. I got the impression she left the apartment or left the home. So there was things she needed that you don't own 2 pasta strainers. Yeah. So if you leave, you're all right, you keep the pasta strainer. You're not going to be, because if you'd said I'm keeping the pasta strainer, you'd seem petty. So she was yeah, let him keep all that stuff. And it struck me as oh, that's kind of a cool way to say to friends, hey, you can, if you want to help me replace all the stuff I lost in the divorce, you can. So I think that's a really cool thing that you can do. I think the other thing you can do is I think people, when they go through a divorce, they really feel they feel who they are has foundationally been shifted. Mm-hmm. Nobody, we live in a world where everybody acts like they meant to do everything that happens, even though half the time I think they're lying, even when you get fired from a job, they're I hated that job anyway, it's people really, I meant to do that, and you can't do that with divorce. Nobody got married and was yeah, whatever, if it doesn't work out, we'll just get divorced. People mean to stay married. That's a good point. And so I think anything that can make a person not feel like a failure and sort of see it as an invitation to the next chapter of their life. And I think as a friend, the best thing you can do is just point out to the person all the things about them that still make them incredible and special and that make them appealing, not just in the context of relationship, just in the context of life and whatever this next chapter holds for them.
It's cool that you said that. I was going through a breakup years ago and I was so sad. And I got an email from a college friend out of the blue. Yeah. And it was short. It was 1 or 2 paragraphs. And she just said all the things that she loved about me.
Isn't that great? I
will never forget it.
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that lovely?
It's so lovely.
It is such a wonderful feeling when we express to another person, because sometimes too, you can do this in a relationship. If you ask another person, what is it you love about me? Sometimes you're really surprised by the answers.
Yeah.
I work at an office, with a lot of women. I have a lot of women in my paralegal and administrative staff. And it fascinates me sometimes because my office is such that I can hear their conversations sometimes. And I've learned so much about how little I know about women by that experience. Because we're all running around trying to do as many shoulder presses as possible and thinking we have to get Chris Hemsworth's abs.
That is so not it. And
the stuff you guys, when you're yeah, oh, he was wearing a t-shirt and like you could just see like the bump of where the like cross he wears was. Oh, I think that's so sexy. I'm like, wait, what? What? Like, what is that? Or, oh, like, he did that thing like that when I got up to use the restroom, like he didn't know whether he should get up or not. And he kind of like, it was so cute. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about? Like the stuff that you guys are like blown away by, and even some of the stuff that you're upset by that we do. I'm like, we would never have known that. Like, we really should have to like embed like an anthropologist, like Jane Goodall in each other's spaces. Like, I think like women should like embed themselves in like some bar or some jujitsu academy and just like hide and listen to what we're saying. And then we should do the same thing with women. Like we should just like listen because we would be stunned by it. Like, and I think if you say to your partner, like, you know, when do you feel the most loved by me? Like, that's an interesting question.
That's a beautiful question.
Like, when do you feel the most loved by me? I think you'd be shocked at the answer. It would be such small things. It would be such little tiny things that made you feel like, and you'd go, that? Mm-hmm. Like, it wasn't the grand gesture that I planned for your birthday. And it's like, no, it was that one time where you did this, like, or when my mom was sick and you did this. And it's like, wait, really? Like, it was that easy? Like, it was that easy, that little thing. Like, that to me is like the most beautiful thing that we just don't even know how much power we have over the emotional state of this other person. And we don't even see the ways we make them feel loved. You know, like I'm always in my own relationships, you know, even with my sons, like I've always said to them, because I know how, you know, working as a hospice volunteer and doing what I do for a living and seeing the impermanence of things, I'm always thinking about the impermanence of things. And I always make a point of telling my sons, like, you know, everyone in my life who I love, I make a point of the last thing I say to them in every conversation is I love you, because I always want to know that's the last words I said to that person, because you never know when it's the last time, you know. But I've always said to my sons, I'm like, you know, I love you, but I want you to know I know you love me. Like, I want you to hear me say that I know you love me. So you never have to worry if something happened to me. Did my dad know I loved him? Like, yeah, I know you love me. And I think there's tremendous value in relationship, whatever the relationship, mother, father, son, sibling, whatever, in saying to the other person, like, I feel your love. Mm-hmm. Like, do you know that I feel your love? And maybe even say to them, do you know when you did X, Y, and Z, I could feel that you love me. Like, what a gift to say that to someone.
Truly.
Yeah.
You know, I've had probably like 8,000 hours of conversation professionally, and no one's ever said that. I agree with you.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful. Simple. It's free. Like, it's free. Like, you don't need to buy the 37 Birkin bags. You could literally, like, it would warm you to the core if all of the people in your life right now could just tell you all the times they feel loved by you. I think you would be reduced to a puddle of tears by how beautiful that is. And I think that one of the great problems of our society is that, like, the first time most people get everyone who loves them in a room is at their funeral.
Yes. Like,
that's crazy, man. Like, they're really, we have to cultivate spaces to talk more about how much we love each other. Maybe. I'll have to figure that out. It's just what I need is another job. You know? I
have some rapid fire questions for you.
All right, let's go.
A celebrity couple you think is the real deal?
Oh, gosh. Think's the real deal in terms of how much they love each other? Mm-hmm. Because I've got a couple that I'm like impressed by in terms of how well they divorced. Like Bruce Willis and Demi Moore like had the coolest divorce ever.
Really?
Oh yeah. Like Liev Schreiber and Naomi Watts had like the coolest divorce, and now they like just took their kid off to college and they both posted on Instagram about it. They're at lunch together, and like I was like, see, you can do it. People do it all the time. People are cool with each other. So that's nice. Couples that I think are like a celebrity couple that I think's the real deal. Gosh. I think actually Barack and Michelle Obama.
Cool.
Barack and Michelle Obama, I always felt like when you saw them together, I remember when they did their first dance at the inauguration. I think it was to Etta James at Last, which I think is a very romantic song. The way they were looking at each other, I was like, man, these two they got a couple kids, and like, I get the impression they still are into each other. Like they're still going at it, you know, like
So cool.
There's a real feeling of like affection that they had to each other. And you know, maybe it's artifice, but I didn't get the impression it was. It seemed to me that like, yeah, that's like real and palpable.
Your favorite romantic comedy?
I think Love Actually. I've probably seen Love Actually like 15 times. And I still think it's a really beautiful film because it's about a lot of different kinds of love in a lot of different circumstances. And I think it's a really lovely film. I know it's come under some criticism in the past, but I think that's a really good romantic comedy.
What's your favorite holiday?
Thanksgiving. Because there's no gifts. You don't have to buy anybody presents and it's just food. And it's a lot of people getting together. And I like all just gathering for a meal. I really like that.
I love how anti-consumerism you are.
Yeah. I think we've convinced people that consumption will fill the void, and it won't. Nothing drives that point home to you more than representing ultra wealthy people, like because they're just miserable, a lot of them.
What haven't you gotten in life that you've been chasing?
Peace. I think peace inside myself. I think that's what I'll have always been chasing, and maybe will always be chasing. I feel like I'm getting closer to it. I think I spent a lot of my life uncomfortable in my own skin, and I think that every year that I would never go backwards. I'm 52, and I would never go backwards. My sons are in their 20s. A lot of the guys who work for me are in their 30s and 40s, and I don't envy any of them. I like moving forward, and I feel like I'm getting closer and closer every year to peace.
Thank you for saying that and sharing that.
Yeah.
If you weren't an attorney, what would you be doing?
Embarrassing myself in public. I think I'd be a writer. I love to write. I wrote my book. I've written some fiction, none of which has been published yet, but some of which is in the works. And I like to write. It's a very solitary activity, but I really like writing. I also think I would probably work in end of life medicine. I would probably be like a full-time hospice volunteer. I think that's what I'll do when I retire. Is I'll probably write books and be a hospice volunteer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Something everyone should try once.
Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 15 years. I think it's one of the most rewarding and enjoyable activities. I think that I jokingly call it struggle cuddles because it's a very physically intimate activity to do with somebody, but it requires a lot of trust. And it's also like chess with your body. And it's also really practical from a self-defense standpoint.
What's a book that you've read that changed your life? Something you think everybody should read?
Oh, I read a lot. So I got to go with two of them.
Okay.
One is All the Light We Cannot See by Anthony Doerr. It won the Pulitzer Prize. It's an unbelievably beautiful book it's theoretically about World War II, but it's not really. It's about being human. And so I think that is one of, if not the greatest book I've ever read. The other is a book that came out about 2 months ago in June. It's a book by an author named Jason Green. It's his first novel, and it's called Unworld. And I would say it's a novel, and it's a very readable novel. I would say that it's about artificial intelligence and the nature of consciousness, but it's really about life and grief and what does it mean to be human. Like All the Light We Cannot See, it was a book that moved me to tears like 2 or 3 times while I was reading it, but with just how beautiful the sentiment in it was. It's an incredible book. It's a new book, so I don't know how it'll do popularity-wise. I kind of stumbled on it. It's not even out in paperback. It's still in hardcover. But I bought it when I was going away to Las Vegas for the weekend. And I was like, I'm going to read like some light fiction, And I'm sitting like by the pool at the Palazzo, like crying, but it was just such a good book and in some of the same ways that All the Light We Cannot See is. It's very much what it's about is not what it's about. It's very much about being human.
If you can grab the question everything card game.
Oh boy.
Pull out whichever card calls to you.
All right. There's a lot of pressure here.
No pressure.
Feels like pressure. All right, I got one. Here we go. Oh, this is the worst question for me.
Why?
Because I'm so antisocial. The single best party you've ever been to. Set the scene. Everyone who knows me in real life knows I do not go to parties. Like I refuse to go to parties. I'm good at it. I'm really good at working a room, but I find it exhausting.
Will you go to a small gathering like a dinner?
Yes, but I hate that too. I really do. It's not, I'm great at it. I find it exhausting. And I wake up at 4 a.m. every day. So I'm usually in bed by 8:30.
Yeah.
So like all the interesting things happen after 8 p.m. So I'm really not that much fun.
Can I ask you a question, taking all humility out of this for a second? Most people I know who feel that way have a really high IQ. And so they are the most interesting person at the table usually. And discussing is sort of like, I could just go to bed. I didn't hear anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love talking to people. Like I find people fascinating. I'm just way better with like one-on-one. Like if you said to me like, hey, let's like go have coffee and talk to somebody for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
If I had more free time, I would happily do, like as a hospice volunteer, I don't think I've ever talked about death with anybody. Like they just want to tell you about their life and what they did for a living and their relationships. And like, I'm riveted, like I'm fascinated by that, you know, like I love people. I just find I feel compelled when I'm in a group setting to like entertain and be entertaining and bring out the entertainment in the people around me. I feel like this sense of control that I'm like, okay, I want to like make this as wonderful as possible. And I'm good at it. Like I'm really good at making it but I find it really tiring. So my answer to this would be the single best party I've ever been to, set the scene. It would really be me and my dogs on the couch. And like, you know, something really, really interesting on Netflix and probably popcorn with like some ghee on it and some salt. And that would be like, that's to me like the best party ever. Like I really am, I'm very much a homebody. Like I'm very much a person that my idea of a good party is like a very small group of people, if any, and maybe something lovely to eat. And definitely dogs, like anything having dogs involved. Like I'm the person who at the party, if I had the misfortune of being invited to a party, I will definitely be in the corner playing with their pets. Like I love animals. So I'll sit there with their cat. And I'm the guy too that people will go, you know, like, oh my God, that dog doesn't like anybody, you know? And I'm like, oh yeah, well, no, you just, you know, he needed to meet me. Like, and my energy with animals works really well.
Well, I heard that you love dogs so much that you're launching Petnups.
Yes, Petnups, trustedpetnup.com. Yeah, that is our new venture. So the team at trustedprenup.com, which is a company I've been involved in for most of this year. We really only started up. I've done hundreds, if not thousands of prenups. And I was approached by a team of really innovative thinkers who came to me and said, we want to leverage AI and technology and take these prenups you've done, these hundreds, if not thousands of prenups, feed them into a large language model, come up with the best possible version of the prenup. And we did. And I was really the legal technical advisor who took the time to put together like the best possible version. And we've now had hundreds of people in the last 5-6 months who've now come onto the platform and built their own prenup. Cool. And we're doing it at literally we're doing it at a quarter of what the retainer would be. And this is like soup to nuts. And we have a guarantee in terms of its enforceability. We have guarantees in terms of your satisfaction with the process. Like we're really transparent in the way we're doing it. And we're doing it in this really innovative way. And I'm thrilled to see how well it's doing. But one of the things that I've been seeing more and more of in my practice, and as an animal lover, I'm very attuned to it, is I'm seeing a ton of people who, you know, in the divorce, like what happens with companion animals is a huge piece. Like they're a member of our family, you know, we care about them in a very similar way to the way we care about our children. Some couples are making choices of saying we're not having children and our pets are going to be, you know, our fur babies or whatever it might be. And so, you know, the pets, just like the children, they didn't ask for there to be a division or a conflict. They don't really understand what's going on. And I've seen people weaponize a pet in a divorce. I've seen people, you know, really be terrified to lose a pet in a divorce. So we decided, you know what, rather than creating barriers to entry to this, like we're going to make it something that's totally democratized. There's a lot of law firms and even some online services that are charging people to do cohabitation agreements or companion animal agreements. Like if people are dating and they decide to get a dog or a cat together, even though they're not living together, or if they decide to live in, like they're charging people to create that. And we said, yeah, let's not do that. Let's just do it for free. Let's do it as a public service. So what we're doing is Trusted Petnup. If you adopt a rescue pet anywhere in the United States, you're entitled to a free Trusted Petnup. You're entitled to a free companion animal agreement, whether it's we're dating, whether it's we're cohabitating, whether it's we're married, whether it's we're marrying. This is basically a way to protect the rights and obligations related to a pet. And if you aren't adopting a dog or cat or horse or bird or whatever companion animals you're adopting, if you've already done it or you bought it from a breeder, we're still making it accessible. And what we're doing there is a pay as you wish kind of a thing. But what we're doing is giving 50% of it to, foster and stray rescue charities. And the other 50% we're using for the costs of the platform, maintaining the website, all of the back end stuff that's done by our technical team. So that's something we're pretty excited about, and that I think is going to be a really nice public service, and I hope is going to raise some money for the charities that I already was very supportive of, and really help people see the value in fostering pets, and hopefully minimize conflict between people when they split up, when it comes to their pets, because I've really seen that cause a lot of pain for people, and I think that it doesn't need to. It can be something that we can contract. The law is starting to treat companion animals differently. When I first started practicing, I had a case where a judge said the people couldn't agree on what to do with the dog, and he said, all right, I'm going to order the dog be sold and the proceeds divided. And these people looked, of course, they immediately went out and figured out a solution. But there was a long time where courts treated animals like property. Like if you accidentally killed someone's dog, you owed them the replacement value of purchasing a new dog. Like, that's crazy. So now the law really understands that companion animals they have a special emotional place in our hearts. Yeah. So we're just trying to help people's contractual relationships, stay apace with how the law is changing. So
you are such a dynamic person.
Thanks. I mean, I think that's a compliment. I don't know.
For sure. Thank you.
I can be exhausting to spend that much time with, but thank you. I appreciate that.
No, riveting. Thank you for sharing so much time with me.
No, thank you for asking such interesting questions and creating such a nice space. I'm really appreciative of the time.
That's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great.